were talking just initially about the casting of Arthur Darvill and the kind of the element he brings to the show and how it might threaten kind of the Ray character, because of course Arthur's character is a little bit more suave and debonair and charming. So.
Yeah, whether Ray is threatened by him?
Yeah.
I don't think Ray is like traditionally ambitious, and like I think he would want to be a leader just because he's sort of that like go-getter, but I don't think he has any sort of like Game of Thrones like he doesn't have a lot of he's a guileless person, like he's sort of he plays his cards like he does not hold them close. And I think when our team is assembled in this pilot, I think Ray is sort of like the cheerleader. Obviously Stein wants to travel in time because he's physicist, nuclear physicist with some theoretically but I think Ray's the sort of guy who's just like, he's kind of like a Labrador retriever. It's just like, if you throw a ball, he's going to like run after it. Other members of our team are rightfully very wary, and they sort of recognize Rip's offer to just like take a little trip back in the past and kill Vandal Savage and save the world. Like, it sounds simple, and it's clearly not going to be simple, but Ray's the sort of guy who'll take people at face value, because that's how he sort of goes through the world, choosing to believe that it's like a bright, happy place.
In terms of tone and overall story, how is Legends going to compare to Arrow and Flash?
Arrow is super dark, sort of vigilante, grim, crusader of justice, and Flash, has a sort of lightness and sort of family quality that ours will definitely be a little closer to that. But I think the fact that ours is a little bit more adult, and it's a little bit more like Madcap. It's more of like a caper, because it's sort of like the Ocean's 11, where you have this team of misfits or dirty dozen, and they've been sent on essentially a suicide mission. So it will have a lot, interpersonal tension, and it'll have a lot more. But it's like a fun. It's like it is almost like a family dynamic between people who can't get along, but they're forced to get along because they're stuck on this stupid time travel spaceship and having to save the world. But if it weren't for that, they would absolutely kill each other. And at a certain point, we will have darkness emerge, and characters will betray one another and be tempted by the dark side, and others might not make it along for the full trip, and others might be lost in weird time periods. But I think, like, when they're all hanging out, like, you can't help but have people who are that different have, like, fundamental disagreements about the stupidest of things, and, like, it's just a very sort of quippy, wisecracky show that to me is, like, hilarious, because that's, like, what I want to write. I don't want to write people who, like, say, like, let's go save the world. Yeah, we all save the world. Like, to me, it's just like, hold on. Like, let's talk about this saving the world. Like, I've got a side agenda. While we're saving the world, I'd like to try to do something. I want to, change my 8th grade, like, math score so that I can, like, do better or whatever. Like, I like that they're selfish and petty and human. To me, those are the kind of heroes that I enjoy writing.
Some of the interviews that we've heard that some of the setup for the series is going to be on Arrow and Flash.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how that's going to work?
Well, there's just so many characters, and ideally the pilot, of this show, you should be able to watch it. And if you don't know the people, it'll be like a sort of getting the band together kind of episode. But in order to sort of deepen that, we wanted to give sort of half and half Flash and Arrow introductions. So that I assume you guys probably watched the other two shows, so that you do have this, like, to me as a kid, like, watching crossovers, like, I was pretty sure television was real, I was pretty sure, like, Scooby-Doo was real, but then, like, when the Globetrotters appeared, like, on Scooby-Doo, I was like, well, that's proof it's real, because I saw the Globetrotters, and those are real people, and if they're on Scooby-Doo. And so, like, to me, doing a crossover show, like, has that kind of cool resonance where you're like, well, these are clearly real people because we saw them introduced, and we made the present so screwed up and uninhabitable for them that they literally had to get on a spaceship and go to another time just so they wouldn't be killed, like either by their friends or enemies.
Is Jane Jackson a code name for any other character? And how long will we have to wait for Booster Gold?
Oh boy. I wish I could like tease a booster thing, but you might have to wait for a good long while, at least on our show. And Jay is not. It's not code. But I feel like Booster is perhaps being groomed for bigger things. Not that there's anything bigger than this show, but someday there might in the future.
Tell us where Jay Jackson was at when the particle accelerator exploded.
Like
Central City,
where he was physically. I mean, he was close enough to become physically altered by the effects.
Can you just maybe arc out a little bit what's going to happen? Because your show is like a mid-season replacement. Where is the trajectory for that first little bit of the season you're going to have?
The first little bit, or just the first 16?
The first 16.
Because, I mean, it's an anthology show. I mean, this is not designed to go forever. I mean, this season is meant to be standalone. I mean, not as anthological as, like, True Detective, but not everybody will be continuing on this journey, and the sort of central premise of time travel and Vandal Savage is totally up for grabs. This is meant to be a season that is tightly serialized, that like when it's over you can't go home again. It's not going to begin season 2 with us all hopping back on the same ship and like, let's get Vandal, but let's get him for real this time. This is not like traditional episodic television in that way.
So then what happens during the time travel? Will that affect then Arrow and Flash in certain ways, perhaps?
Yeah, and I mean, on top of that, there's also the ability to visit the sort of Arrow and Flash worlds prior to the sort of beginnings of those shows. Like if you want to go see Barry as Crime Tech, or if you want to see Oliver pre-shipwreck Playboy, we are able to meet people before either of those shows started, and then we're also, we're able to go into the futures of the show and see, how removing our, 7-8 characters from the timeline. I mean, that's not what has the effect on the future. It's basically in trying to take out Vandal, the things we screw up, like how will that like make the world like an impossible place for us to return in 2016. I think that's the real fun, is the sort of Back to the Future. What happens if you, as a placeholder, your parents don't meet each other? What happens if, those things where you can upset in your own future, like as you're trying to save the world, like what you can do to your own life.